A Connecticut dad rushed to help his mentally ill son in another country after he was reportedly acting erratically at a very swanky hotel, but authorities in Ireland say that son turned on his father and killed him, leaving his body near the pool. We're going to take a closer look at this case with trial attorney and friend of the show, Rich Schoenstein. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. 30-year-old Henry McGowan appeared virtually in an Irish court today, nearly a week after he was arrested for the alleged murder of his own father, Connecticut millionaire John McGowan. 66-year-old John was reportedly a successful financier in New York City, working for years as the managing partner of a venture capital firm called Taurus Capital. He lived in a multi-million-dollar home in New Canaan, Connecticut, which is where his son Henry grew up. Henry eventually attended the University of Virginia, went to work for the tech company Affirm. He was living in an apartment in Brooklyn, New York, when all of this changed. Authorities say Henry had been on a trip in Europe, traveled to County Laois in Ireland, and he was staying at this exclusive luxury resort called Ballyfin. Now, this is a majestic property. It has now been turned into a hotel. It's a really hot spot for celebrities. In fact, if you've been following this, Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, they honeymooned there after their wedding. Now, here's the thing about Henry that we need to talk about and which could factor into this case. Henry had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2022. So this father flies across the world. He flies to Ireland on Monday, November 11th, and then the next day, his body is found in this indoor pool area of the manor house. Irish authorities call it a fatal assault, although the exact details of what happened haven't been released yet. The BBC reports that when he was arrested, Henry didn't say anything. And when he first appeared in court, the judge remanded him to Clover Hill Prison for a mental health evaluation. During his virtual appearance on Monday, he was remanded for an additional 2 weeks to continue his psychiatric care. Last year, Henry ran in the New York City Marathon, raising money for the National Alliance on Mental Illness of New York City. He ended up bringing in a little more than $10,000 for the charity. On the fundraising page, Henry acknowledged his own mental health struggles, writing, "As some of you know, I had a manic episode in January 2022 and was diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 1. A little over a year ago, I was released from the hospital and began the process of reconnecting with reality, my dear friends and family, and eventually my work and hobbies. It was a painstaking path, but being on the other side of it, I am deeply grateful for and in disbelief at how much my life has improved in this relatively short time. There's no greater lesson from this experience than the importance of community. My family, friends, therapists, psychiatrists, and employer were a formidable force that put a large landing pad spanning from New York City to Paris underneath me, one that very well could have saved my life. Thank you all so much for everything you did for me." By the way, as you can see from a story like this, the world is just incredibly scary. And I have to wonder, I ask myself sometimes this too, how can I protect myself more? How can you do it? Well, I'll tell you what, if you think about protecting your home, I didn't even know this, but apparently home title fraud is rampant. Yeah, so I met with the people over at Home Title Lock, our amazing partner and sponsor, and they shocked me. So this is an example of a fraudulent quitclaim deed, got filled out with my information, forged signature, fake notary seal. Not only can my property just get transferred behind my back, but the scammers, they go after the equity. They take out loans using your home as collateral. It's incredibly scary. They do all this, they disappear, they leave you with a legal and financial nightmare, but that is where Home Title Lock comes in to give you some peace of mind, especially with their triple lock protection, because that gets you 24/7 monitoring, alerts of any changes, and restoration services at no out-of-pocket cost to you. So to protect your home, go to HometitleLock.com/sidebar. Use promo code sidebar. You'll get a 30-day free trial of their triple lock protection and a free title history report to make sure you aren't already a victim. As far as the McGowan family, they released a brief statement to the Daily Mail saying John did everything within his power to bring his son Henry, who suffers from a severe mental illness, the help he so desperately needs. The family requests privacy at this difficult time and will not be commenting further. I want to talk about this more with trial attorney Rich Schoenstein, who joins us here in studio. Rich, good to see you. It's a tough case, difficult one.
Yeah, it's a very hard case. It's a very hard case, both thinking about it as a lawyer and as a parent.
What are your initial impressions when you hear about it?
Well, it sounds like the son was troubled. It sounds like there were some pretty serious mental health issues. It sounds like the family was aware of them and tried to address them, but obviously something went wrong here.
And it's eerie. There's been reporting that John was a bit anxious about going there, obviously anticipating what could result. When you think about this alleged crime scene at this property, I mean, if you look at pictures of it, it's historic, it's huge, and happening here, and his body's found the next day. That timeline of events, talking about a fatal assault, what might you think investigators might be looking at here?
Well, I think they're going to look at the physical evidence. I mean, this is a classic investigation looking for cause of death, looking to link, finding a murder weapon if he was hit with something, finding, fingerprints, finding DNA, all of that stuff, so they can say definitively what happened, because presumably there's no eyewitness and I don't hear of any videotape. So all you can do is piece it together from the forensics, unless the son has something definitive to say about it.
Now, I am no expert in Irish law. I will assume that you are not as well, but that's okay. None of us are perfect. I did look up Irish law a little bit, and my understanding in terms of mental health defense, they follow the McNaughton test. This is my understanding of Irish law. So if anybody doesn't know what that is in terms of insanity, we have a number of jurisdictions here. Either you didn't know what you were doing, or you do realize what you're doing, or what you did, I should say, but you just didn't know it was wrong. So those are the two. You either didn't know what you did, you can't appreciate that, or you do realize what you did, and you didn't know it was wrong. So two ways, right? He either realized he attacked his father, or some extreme cases are taking the allegations as true, either attacked his father, or he didn't even realize he was attacking his father. Maybe he thought he was attacking a monster of some kind, or he realized he attacked him but didn't think there was anything wrong with what he did. I don't know the circumstances by which he was arrested. I haven't seen anything to say that he fled. He just wasn't cooperative with Irish authorities. I think it's called Garda, is their law enforcement agency. But at the very least, if you're thinking about this fact pattern, we don't have a lot of details. What do you think about a potential insanity defense if he actually did kill his father?
I'm sure whoever would represent him would want a psychological evaluation right off the top. You would want to get to the bottom of what the issues are and what impact they played. You would definitely want to consider that. You would want to get some experts to look at him, both to help you understand what the facts are, but also to lay the predicate to have somebody potentially testify at trial. If you're going to do any kind of diminished capacity defense, any kind of insanity defense, you will need expert testimony at trial to verify for the jury that that's what took place. And I assume that's true in Ireland as it would be in the United States. So you have to get in there right away and start laying the groundwork for that.
Is there anything that gives you a little bit of pause with that, in the sense that he had been, he's 30 years old, okay? He had been traveling the world, it seems. There were pictures and reporting that he had gone to Hamptons parties, went to exclusive parties, he had a job. Does any of that idea of him functioning and being able to be social out there, does that affect the analysis in any way? Or do you look at it, this is a specific moment at a specific time, and even if somebody has lived a sane life up until that moment, they could have a manic episode at that moment and be declared insane?
Yeah, well, I think you have to consider the totality of the circumstances. A lot of people have gone into court and said they were insane for 20 minutes, right?
Yep.
And never had any problem up until the crime.
Sometimes works.
Yeah. Well, it could work, but it seems less credible than somebody who is afflicted on a constant basis. So, as you say, from what we know, he did travel internationally by himself, got himself housed internationally, did go to parties and that kind of thing. Moreover, it seems like he had some mental issues and he was dealing with them. All of that you went into about him running the marathon, sending out the note on social media. So there is this sense, we know he had some mental issues, and that's probably helpful to the defense, because it's not like this is the first time you're ever hearing about mental health issues in his life. It's come up before. but it did seem like he had maybe gotten past them and was a functional person in the world. And certainly, you know, a huge percentage of people in the United States get mental health treatment. The percentage of them that would then commit murder, much less murder your own parent, that's really small.
And you can be bipolar. You could even be schizophrenic.
That's right.
And you could commit a murder. It doesn't mean you're entitled to the insanity defense.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think that could be a challenge, particularly if you had knowledge of your mental health, right? In other words, let me explain that. I don't know the full details of this, but if he was taking some sort of medication and didn't take it, that would defeat, I think, a mental health kind of defense, right? Or you tell me which way the knowledge of the mental, because there's so many cases we cover where it's undiagnosed mental health issues, and that becomes a big factor in an insanity type case. It also becomes a factor in sentencing. But if this was diagnosed, he was maybe being treated for it, knew about it, his father knew about it, how would that affect the analysis?
Well, I like the way you explain the defense, because that really grounds you in the issue in this kind of case. The defense is not he had a mental health issue, whatever it was.
Right.
Having a mental health issue is not a defense to anything.
Yeah.
It's whether or not that issue and any other issues made it so that he didn't know what he was doing or he didn't know that it was wrong. So, you know, plenty of people who are bipolar know right from wrong.
Yeah.
Plenty of people who have schizophrenia or any kind of condition know right from wrong. It's not 1 + 1 does not equal 2 necessarily.
I feel so bad for the family and completely understand that they want privacy at this time. What are they going through at this point? I mean, they're trying to process not only the death of John, but now the arrest and potential conviction of his son?
Well, I told you what I thought about the case, not just as a lawyer, but as a father. So here's a father who thought, my son is in trouble, got on a plane, flew internationally to go help his son, and it seems was killed.
So sad.
And it's a tragedy for everybody in that family. You know, that family that maybe has been dealing with this kid's issues, I call him, he's an adult, but, you know, with his issues for whatever period of time. But this, I don't even know how a family deals with something like this.
What are the challenges of an American being tried abroad?
Well, by the way, there are ways in the United States to prosecute him. You
really?
Can. There are federal laws that at least conceptually allow you to prosecute a U.S. national who kills another U.S. national overseas.
Interesting.
I think we're seeing that right now. There's a case going on. There's another case going on. It'll come to me where that's happening. So I don't take that off the table necessarily, but I don't think it presents any special kind of challenges. People often end up in court in jurisdictions that they're in that aren't their home jurisdiction. And since it's an American accused of killing another American, there shouldn't necessarily be any bias against him in an Irish court. It would be different, right, if he was accused of killing someone who is native to Ireland, then the jury might have some sort of bias against him.
And again, I'm no expert, but I looked at this. It seems their law is very similar to our law. It's all based on English law.
Right.
So I think it's beyond a reasonable doubt or a similar variation of that. But again, I don't know if there would be an advantage of him being tried in America versus Ireland, as opposed to, look, he would be closer to his family. They would be here. I mean, but I don't know if there would be an advantage.
Well, I don't know either. And I don't know, you know, an interesting question about the family is, what's his access to resources now in terms of having counsel to represent him? Does he have money to afford counsel? Does he have access to family money at this point? Or is he going to be having a public defender in the U.S. or the equivalent of a public defender in Ireland? I don't know the answer to any of that.
Yeah.
but the quality of representation will matter.
All right, we'll keep our eyes on this. It's a sad case, really, upsetting for a number of different reasons. But Rich Schoenstein, thanks for coming on and talking about it. Appreciate it.
Always good to be here, Jesse.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.